opened up for the Rolling Stones. So you got to share some stories, some experience of doing that, because that's as big as you get.
By their Majesty's request, in fact. They,
Really?
Yeah, man, we were requested.
Oh, that's cool.
We were, our presence was, my presence had been requested. It's amazing how they're so British. It's startling. Alert the media. The Rolling Stones are so British. They have a very proper way of just doing things and referring to things. And I had a mutual friend who was a great friend of Charlie's and of Keith's and Ronnie's, and he had been a childhood chum of theirs. They were all collecting records and listening to blues at the same time. Clive went into art, and he became a great archivist and record collector, and had written some great stuff about early records and early American blues and things like that. So he was quite a scholarly cat, and he lived in Toronto. He was quite a bit older than me, and sort of took me under his wing as this great friend and benefactor.
Oh, wow.
And believe me, that guy, he paid my rent some months, and he gave me guitars to play when I had no guitars. He gave me all his old records when he converted over to digital, like when he burned everything onto CDs. He gave me all his old vinyl, which as a result, you know, you hear Keith Richards talking about Chuck Berry and the early Chuck Berry records, and how he learned everything from old Bo Diddley records and Chuck Berry records, and those were like his Bible. I have those pages from the Bible in my house because Clive ended up with all the records because he was the archivist. Oh, wow. He ended up with everyone's records when the Stones no longer lived in England, and they were moving all about, and no one had their stuff in one place anymore. You weren't going to leave it at your mom and dad's. Clive ended up with all the records. So as a result, I probably have the piece of vinyl that Keith learned to play "Oh Carol" from. I have the vinyl that they listened to and said, this may be the last time. Oh, that's a great idea for a song. I have those records, the actual vinyl.
That's cool.
That those dudes, again, it's a story that doesn't sound true. How I end up at the crossroads of rock and roll history, I don't know. But I have those records, and I know it doesn't sound true, but when I was in Australia on tour with Satriani, we were in Melbourne. The Stones were in Melbourne. And after our show, we were hanging out in the dressing room at the theater, and Keith's guitar tech came in, who's quite a bit of a celebrity in his own right. He's, you know, the richest guitar player in the world's guitar tech. He prepares the man for the throne every night. He's the dude, right? Pierre hooks Keith's world up. And I'd met Pierre because we played shows with him, and I met Pierre on a number of occasions, and I didn't assume he remembered me. It had been years, and we're in Australia. I mean, I don't expect to see a dude from a gig in Toronto. So I walked up to Pierre and I said, "Oh, hey, Pierre, man, it's Gordie Johnson, the Big Sugar. Listen, man, I don't know if you remember me." And he just looked at me and went, "Where are the records?"
Cool,
where are the records? My boss wants to know. Where are the records? I was like, your boss should know. You're never going to see them records on eBay. Those records are never going on any. They're not going to no record shows. Those will never be sold or traded or nothing.
Yeah.
Those records, all he's got to do is make the call, and then he gets the records back. That's just how it's going to be. He doesn't trade me something for them. I don't own them. I'm having them. I'm the keeper of the curator. I'm the keeper of the prized things. So if at any point that becomes important to somebody, then they'll get them back. But I thought that was just when you thought you'd been forgotten there on the periphery, the guy's guitar tech, all he had to say to me, where are the records? Oh, shit.
Cool.
I better take care of them records.
So what was that tour like?
Which one?
Well, opening up.
The Stones or the Satriani?
No,
they were both really cool.
The Stones, come on.
The Stones was amazing because I think it was because Charlie asked to have us. Charlie was a fan. Yeah. And I'd met Charlie on a number of occasions. And whenever the Stones would come to town to rehearse to Toronto, which is where they did that a lot. Right. They did all their staging and set up their tours from Toronto. Whenever they were around, I would get the call. You never knew when. Your presence has been requested. You've been asked to come around. Like, oh,
let's go.
Is it? Okay. Well, cool. So I'd go down to the Masonic and go up, and it was worse than airport security. I mean, after 9/11, remember, airport security used to just be like, you'd show your ticket and walk through. All of a sudden, there's like full body pat down and going through a metal detector and stuff to get into a Rolling Stones rehearsal.
So
like,
cool.
And who are you here to see? I was like, I'm a friend of Charlie. Charlie who? I was like, he's this well-dressed little Englishman. He plays the drums sometimes. You might have seen him around. Which Charlie who? The fuck? So I got this like interrogation. I went to secondary. I had to sit in a chair. Well, this guy kind of roughed me up and gave me the once over. Like, no, who was it exactly again? You said you were here to see. I'm like, oh God. And then there himself, Charlie walked by. I was like, oh, Gordie, sorry, mate. Oh, let him go. He's all right. And just walked me through the curtain. So I got to go behind the curtain and sit next to Charlie. I sat on the drum riser next to Charlie's hi-hat, and his people would just bring us little cups of espresso after every go-around of a song. They would you like another coffee?
I just figured, okay, you guys go on now, get your shit off, go. No, you were at rehearsals.
Yeah, I got to go to rehearsal.
Holy cow. That's way bigger than I thought.
Hanging around at rehearsal, and you'd see them parade people through there. I saw the Black Crowes came walking through there one day, who I would later become great friends with. I didn't know Chris at the time, but here's a guy with a large feather in his cowboy hat, wearing a velvet poncho or something. I was like, oh, that looks like Chris. You'd see these people paraded through there, but I didn't do that. I sat. Charlie he loved to converse, and we would talk about Marc Chagall, and we would talk about the finest leather brogan shoes you could have. And we talked about different fashion designers and automobile design. We talked about the Gullwing Mercedes, and Charlie had a Gullwing Mercedes. I'm like, wow. What's it like? What's that car like to drive? Well, I don't know, mate. I don't drive. You have a Gullwing Mercedes, but you don't drive. Think about that. What did you pay? Was it $180,000 car? Was it a $500,000 car now?
The Rolling Stones, man.
You don't drive. Well, no, from the early days, they always had someone come around and fetch us. Did you? Oh, dear. Okay, so
were you playing stadiums? Or was it? It must have been.
Yeah, we played at the, I think it was the Air Canada Center.
That's an arena.
Skydome or Air Canada?
Yeah,
it was Air Canada Center. We played. But it was because Charlie asked for us. Charlie asked us to come around. And I had a couple of run-ins with Keith, and Keith was a big Sugar fan. He had Hemivision, and they'd all heard 500 Pounds. And Charlie loved the jazz. Charlie loved Al Cross, and he loved Rafa, and he loved our jazzy reggae thing. He loved that. So he asked for us to be on the gig, I understand. And so, we got the Rolling Stones gig. Unbelievable. Of course, there's a lot of other machinations that happened. For our agent, obviously, had to get involved in our label. It's never as easy as that. Wow. But to everyone's credit, we got on the gig, and you expect it to be.
So how many shows did you do?
Just one.
Oh, it's just the Toronto one. Okay.
Just get on, play, get off, get your shit out of the way. Don't look at anybody. Don't talk to anybody. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. The biggest rock and roll band in the world made us feel like they made us feel like
you were at the friggin' rehearsals.
Mick has Persian rugs all over the stage. Do you lads want us to roll those up, or do you want them left? I guess you could
leave them.
Leave them, I guess. This will be your video director who runs the videos on the Jumbotron. Do you want to have a brief word with him? Like, what? We get to use the thing? It's like, well, if you have a great show, we have a great show, mate. We're worried about being too loud. They're like, no, not likely. You can play as loud as the Rolling Stones. You can't be louder than the Rolling Stones. Oh, fair enough. But they didn't. I mean, we played shows with bands who were our equals and contemporaries. And their sound guy would try to put gaff tape on the faders so you couldn't turn. I was like, no, we're not going to get that pissing match. We're all professionals. So it sounds no, man, they gave you the full lights, full sound. Just don't go louder than us. And you got the keys to the kingdom. Oh, by the way, catering's this way. Help yourself to the champagne.
Good for you,
Don't touch the shepherd's pie until Keith's had his fill. Once Keith's had the shepherd's pie, dig in. But if you break the crust, you're out. It'll be an evening with. There'll be no opening act. Don't, Pasco, do not collect your $200. Don't break the crust on the shepherd's pie. But you're meant to walk around and have a good time. You're playing rock and roll, mate. You're playing on a show with the Rolling Stones. It's all right
Gordie,
to smile. It's all right to smile.
That's a song title. Don't break the crust.
But you're encouraged to like be seen having a good time. It's the Rolling Stones. Who has a better time? Who has more fun playing rock and roll than the Rolling Stones? Yeah. So right off the bat, you're like, okay, but you're still nervous as hell because like it's the Rolling Stones we're playing with. And somebody came to our dressing room and said, your presence has been requested. And they took me and Gary back around to say hi to Charlie. Charlie wanted to say hi to us before the show. What? You remembered? He's like, yes, he remembered. So we got to hang out with Charlie, and then he came to our dressing room and met everybody. We got a picture taken with the Rolling Stones. Everybody got a hang. It was like they really went to the farthest degree to treat you like
what a story.
Equals. And so, to my mind, is after that, anytime we're playing with a band who act like a bunch of dicks,
you can tell
I kind of feel like saying, hey, by the way, the Rolling Stones aren't dicks. What is your deal? What is your deal? Would you just calm down? These are the greatest, our greatest heroes in the world, and they're totally cool. And like I said, I'm fortunate,